Hare Krishna. I am Radha Mohini Mohan from the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We welcome you to Shri Shri Radha Raj Bihari Temple, ISKCON Juhu. Today the topic for discussion is what is ego, how to easily identify and bypass ego. To understand this, what is ego, we should hear from Lord Shri Krishna himself. According to him, what is ego? In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse number 4, Krishna says, Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kham mano buddhi revcha ahankaram ityame bhinna prakritishtha. That means earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence and false ego, all together these 8 constitutes my separated material energies. That means God says He has separated inferior material energy. There are 8 separated inferior material energy. Among these 8 elements, the first 5 elements, that is earth, water, fire, air and ether, these are gross elements, and mind, intelligence and ego is the subtle element. These 8 elements are separated and inferior energies of the Supreme Lord. Now let us understand what is meant by the 3 elements which are subtle: mind, intelligence and ego. Mind is sum total recordings of our fulfilled and unfulfilled desires, pleasant and unpleasant feelings. That constitutes mind, and the activity of mind is willing, thinking and feeling. The subtlest element among this subtle body is false ego, and in between is intelligence. The job of intelligence is to differentiate, to decide and to be determined on that decision. So this is the activity of intelligence. Now the third top, that is ego. Ego is identification. Ego means how do we identify ourselves. As we understand from Bhagavad Gita, we are not this body, we are eternal soul. But mostly we identify ourselves with this body, and we very rarely identify ourselves as a soul. But we all realize and understand that we are not this body. So this bodily identification is our not true identification. It is not our true ego. It is our false ego, false identification. And we are soul. This identification of soul, that is I am soul, is our true identification. Now the main question is how to come to our true identification and how to remove that ego. Now the moment we understand ourselves as I am body, which is our false identification, false ego, few anarthas, unwanted weeds starts developing. The moment we understand ourselves as body, we identify ourselves as body which is made of material elements, we start getting material desires. That is called काम. Along with those desires, when it is fulfilled, develops greed. We try to fulfill those greeds. Now, the products of this desire and greed, that is kama and lobha, is what we see in our material world. Then whatever we have achieved, got, received because of this material greed and material desires, we get attracted to those things or living beings. That is called attachment, moha. And along with that, we get proud of those belongings. That is called mada. In our day-to-day understanding, we understand ego with that proud, that I am so and so, I have done so and so things, I have accumulated this much, so much wealth, all this belongs to me. So all these are material belongings, and we get puffed up with those belongings. So I start identifying ourselves with those belongings, and when anything goes against these four things, काम, लोभ, क्रोध and काम, लोभ, मद and moha, we get anger. So we should understand that all this false ego is coming because of our false identification. Now, answering the third part, how to remove this ego, how to come out of this false ego. Very simple. To come out of this false ego, we should come into our true ego. That is, we are not body, we are soul. And the soul is part and parcel of Supreme Lord. The more we understand ourselves as soul, the more we come on the platform of soul, our material ego, material identification will come down. So to remove material identification, we should come into true identification, true ego, that is, we are soul, and the job, the activity of the soul is to serve the Supreme Lord. So to remove the false ego, we should come into true ego and we should start serving the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.